On July 15th, 2020, Twitter witnessed one of the most insane hacks in the history of not only just social media, but the internet in general. The public event caught the attention of security teams globally, millions of Twitter users, Hollywood celebrities, and eventually even the FBI. Imagine the shock on faces when randomly dozens of important Twitter accounts were sending out odd messages about Bitcoin. We're talking about Kanye West, Elon Musk, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and even Apple's own corporate Twitter account. These absolutely massive accounts were compromised and tens of millions of combined followers became targets of a malicious cryptocurrency scam. Essentially, the tweets contained a scam that promised Twitter users something absolutely insane. Simply send some Bitcoin to a Bitcoin wallet attached in the tweet, and the account would send you back twice the amount that you had sent in the first place. I mean, let's be honest, when you see Elon Musk telling you that he has some free Bitcoin that he wants to give you as long as you can send him some first, some people really are just that gullible. But for those who weren't gullible, these tweets came off as alarming. For instance, I remember getting on Twitter that day, right? And I just see all of these accounts that I follow, these huge accounts like Elon Musk and Kanye West, for example, tweeting out these random Bitcoin posts, and I immediately knew that something was off. Now, you know, for a lot of people, when they saw that, they didn't really think anything of it because, I mean, sure, why wouldn't Elon Musk, one of the richest people in the world, want to quote-unquote give back to his community by, you know, doubling your Bitcoin that you send him? That sounds completely legitimate, you know? To a lot of people, they actually did figure that this was real, and it caused a lot of very negative side effects, including thousands of dollars lost. It turns out that this was all a coordinated effort by scammers to make a nice payday from the naive people of social media. Today, you see stories talking about mass misinformation in your social feeds and security breaches all of the time, but this was definitely an issue that many people genuinely never saw coming, and not seeing it coming can be a huge problem. That's why Dashlane is here to help. Dashlane is a secure, easy-to-use, everyday tool for your PC, phone, or tablet. Dashlane saves you time online by auto-generating your passwords to make them safer, and even stores all of them for a more simple login, one-click process. With Dashlane, you don't need to spend time resetting your password and manually entering in your credit card information or even your personal information. Just one click and you're done. On top of storing your digital information, Dashlane has a built-in VPN to prevent you from being tracked online. Dashlane's encryption makes it one of the safest ways to store your digital information online and just makes your life easier as well. You can try Dashlane for free on your first device at dashlane.com/Optimus. And if you decide to upgrade to premium to use Dashlane everywhere, you can use my code Optimus for 10% off. Thank you to Dashlane for sponsoring this video. When this attack actually happened, it was completely unprecedented. It exposed so many holes in Twitter that people never even would have expected to be possible. The vulnerability that led to the hack was so significant that all verified profiles on Twitter were temporarily blocked from even tweeting out publicly to prevent more accounts from being compromised and sending out these tweets. I've never seen a situation like that before. However, by that time, the damage had already been done. And to be honest, it just simply wasn't possible to reverse any of the damage that already had been done. That damage was catastrophic not only to Twitter just in the moment, but also to people's Bitcoin wallets and reputation of social media altogether. These simple scam tweets were so successful that within 4 hours of them even being sent out, one of the Bitcoin wallets had received about 13 Bitcoin from nearly 400 transactions, which at that time equated to about $117,000. If you did the math currently, that amount of Bitcoin would be worth nearly $153,000 US about a month later. You can see how this amount of money could quickly grow into something much larger. Obviously, Bitcoin is pretty volatile, so it realistically could have went either way, but as of this time, that Bitcoin definitely matured into even more profit. Obviously, though, there was never any intent to double anyone on their Bitcoin offers. I mean, you know, you send over 0.1 Bitcoin, you get 0.2 back. That was never going to happen, and unfortunately, people fell for it. In all reality, the scam was extremely simple. I mean, you just get people to trust these verified accounts are the ones really behind it, that Jeff Bezos is actually going to give you the money. Get people to purchase or log into Bitcoin accounts through maybe an application like Coinbase, and get them to send some to the wallet provided, which honestly isn't even really that hard. And after that, you were pretty much finished. You had what you needed from them, they had sent their money, you had no reason to send any back, and when millions of people were shown this message and this promise, of course, naturally, a few people fell for the trick. It turns out that the people behind the hack, according to Twitter, were a, quote, coordinated social engineering attack by people who successfully targeted some of our employees with access to internal systems and tools. Essentially, they found a super easy way into the backdoor of Twitter. Obviously, the security features that employees would have are not available to the general public. I mean, we're talking about these employees having the ability to even tweet from a verified account, go through their personal messages. But once they found a way in, which they did quite successfully, Twitter had given an extremely alarming inside access to quite a few employees and then, of course, hackers eventually. This gave them a dashboard of security features that essentially just allowed them to have insanely detailed views of what these accounts were doing. It's even believed that things as private as DMs with other Twitter users could be viewed through this security panel once again. Twitter took a lot of heat for this situation publicly, and I think rightfully so. It kind of caused a big discussion about the security of social media, and obviously Twitter itself erupted about the widespread scam and reaction that the team basically faced. I mean, it was unprecedented. No one expected it. I mean, getting on the timeline to see this was nothing that anyone could have ever anticipated. Fears over the security risks ran wild. I mean, we're talking about US presidential candidate Joe Biden being a part of the hack and former President Barack Obama. Hypothetically, these hackers had the private access necessary to say anything for accounts like even Donald Trump, congressmen and women, military leaders for countries, and much more startling, this could have potentially been weaponized had the hackers had it in mind. Had the hackers been more sinister and not been going for money, they could have tweeted some extremely insane stuff from the president's Twitter account. I mean, what if today, a coordinated tweet effort from someone compromising Donald Trump, several congressional members, the Secretary of Defense, all the military accounts, basically announced like a full-scale invasion of Iran, you know? Hopefully more security features would be in place between nations to confirm the tweets to be legitimate and war to be on the horizon, but imagine the panic and fear of these simple tweets could spread. Hackers could have announced nuclear missiles hitting across the United States and sent a whole country into panic mode. Just a few years ago, an accidental emergency alert system was sent out in Hawaii that announced that there was a nuclear missile on the way to the island. Videos went viral afterwards of people freaking out and sending panicked messages to their loved ones, including a dad who sent a terribly sad video in which he expected to spend his last minutes on Earth away from his family playing golf, and you could just hear the emotion people had. And we've seen how people react to even smaller things on social media, and it's unnerving to imagine how our country would behave if tweets like this had been sent out. But in the aftermath of this, Twitter gave a very corporate response about the situation and announced that they were working on revamping security features to cut down the potential of this ever happening again. But it is fair to ask, how did this even happen in the first place? Nobody at Twitter could have ever seen having such a wide implementation of an all-seeing security panel going south. Rogue employees are an even more big possibility. These aren't features that every employee should have, and Twitter seems to realize that now that the damage has been done. But in connection with the hacks, it was reported on July 31st, 2020 that a 17-year-old was arrested in Tampa, Florida for connection to the attack. Officials deemed him the mastermind of the attack at such a young age, which just shows how advanced people are becoming when it, comes to your online technologies. Many people would expect for something coordinating this to be like a professional green screen group, maybe. I'm in the mainframe type of hacker that you see in cheesy 80s movies. It turns out that a local high schooler can make Twitter security look like cakework. Now, he was charged as an adult and faces 30 different charges, including fraud. But 2 others were also arrested, including a 19-year-old from the United Kingdom and a 22-year-old from Orlando, Florida. This was a global operation. Essentially, they convinced a Twitter employee that they were a co-worker in the technology department and that they, needed to get employee credentials to access customer service records. But it turns out that this employee being fooled through social engineering led to the hack of well over 130 total Twitter accounts and a high-profile Bitcoin scam that has become one of the most public incidents of a breach in recent memory. Unfortunately, Twitter was not the only company hit by such an attack. Phone spear phishing has become much more common, essentially a form of engineering like what was used in the Twitter hack. Dozens of other companies have been hit in just the past few weeks since Twitter was hacked this way, including banks, cryptocurrency exchanges, web hosting firms, and more. It seems that the Twitter hacks have encouraged others to continue this kind of behavior. And they seem to be kind of like a hydra. If you shut one down, arrest someone for responsibility, and it's a public case, 2 more of the same type of attacks are going to show up. I mean, it really does take a special talent and know-how to pull these attacks off, and people seem to underestimate how simple and effective moves like this can even be. Overall, Twitter being hacked like this has changed the internet, though. For instance, Twitter, one of the biggest social media companies in the world, is now being forced to completely revamp their security features in an effort to prevent this from happening ever again. and now other companies will be forced to follow suit as these kinds of attacks are growing since the highly public Twitter incident. On top of that, this brought millions of eyeballs to the front row for situations like this. We witnessed this one happen live, unlike many of these other scandals and hacks. People are more aware than ever how faulty the security of our social media and our web pages are. If they aren't being hacked, they're being influenced for the spread of misinformation. I mean, the internet is sometimes a dangerous place, but people take a sense of security, especially on big websites, that generally doesn't deserve to be there. And the truth is, if Twitter is vulnerable to these kinds of attacks, what other websites are? I mean, Twitter is a multi-billion-dollar company and can't get employees who don't get reversed like this. What other company does and can? There will likely be a lot of security overview for similar websites coming up. The unfortunate part, though, is that once these new security innovations are made by companies, hackers instantly go to work to try to circumvent them again. It's essentially a game of cat and mouse. I mean, hackers get around the features, new features get created. Just keep repeating. Each side wants to one-up the other for their own reasons, but it will be a little while before we even see the full impact. However, just within this month of the attacks, we've seen a pretty widespread ripple made by the Twitter hack. When it comes down to it, we all need to be just a little bit more aware of what we're doing and seeing online. I mean, it's easy to feel safe when you're especially on big websites, but as you can see, this isn't always a shield from anything bad happening. And sure, if you weren't Jeff Bezos or someone foolish enough to send Bitcoin to a random address during the attack, you probably were okay. But that's beside the point. The Twitter hack changed the internet. People became more aware of cybersecurity and the ongoing battle with it. Twitter was exposed for faulty security and now raises questions about mega websites like Twitter, and hackers have found a new and improved way to target companies for their own gain. I think the effects will last much longer than anyone expects, even though as of now it's simply just a game of wait and see. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter, Twitch, and Storyfire at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. Thank you to my channel members. Your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus talking about Twitter and signing out.